It is time for the finale, finally. Hi guys and welcome to HeidiKMakeup. I wanted to finally film for you the finale of my Pan That palette for the year of 2017. And you're like, Heidi, it's 2018. Yeah, I know, I've really neglected this channel. If you want to see us frequently, check out the daily vlogging channel. Right now we're daily over at HeidiKMakeup or one of my other channels. This channel gets the least amount of love, and then I go through phases where I just want to film everything. So, but I did do Pan That palette for the year of 2018, and I've been holding on to this palette so that I could show you guys my progress. So, the year of 2018, I was really focused on actually finishing an entire palette for the first time. And I haven't used it since January, but I've been holding on to it so I could film this video. So I want to film this just so I can get this out of my life. Last year was the first year that I tried not just to hit pan on every shade in a palette, but actually finish an entire palette. And I chose the Too Faced Chocolate Bar because it's neutral, it's very wearable. Too Faced used to be my favorite shadow formula, although after doing this, I don't know that I still feel that way. I don't know. And so I felt like this one was definitely one that could give me lots of looks and that I could use up. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what it looks like on the inside. I think my last update was last July. It's been almost a year. Ta-da! So as you can see, there are still a couple shadows that I didn't finish. All really, really dark shades. So the Triple Fudge, Semi-Sweet, Gilded Ganache, which I knew was going to be a hard shade for me, and then this Cherry Cordial right here. But I'm just going to call this done. I'm going to say this is no more, because the Triple Fudge and the Semi-Sweet, those are shades that you can get in almost any other palette. I'm so sick of looking at this. I was really over it by the time I was done, and I just don't like the Gilded Ganache shade. So, I'm enjoying Pan That palette this year much, much more than I was last year. This year I'm doing the Anastasia Beverly Hills Self-Made palette, and I find it much easier. Some feedback and some thoughts. Too Faced is very tricky to do. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for your first Pan That palette, because it is just, these shadows are just really packed, which is a good thing. I think that most people aren't trying to finish up an entire eyeshadow palette. They want it to last as long as possible. So if you're looking for a shadow palette where you'll get a lot of bang for your buck, Too Faced is really good for that. But the matte shadows especially are just really densely packed. It's really hard to hit pan on them. And the other thing that I learned from the Too Faced Chocolate Bar is that a lot of times you think that you're getting a lot of options, and then you'll realize that a lot of shades are the same shade, even shadows that you don't necessarily think would be. So like hazelnut and hot chocolate, they should have just made that one large shade, because honestly they were basically the same exact shade. You had three mid-tone browns in here: salted caramel, milk chocolate, and semi-sweet. And yes, salted caramel was like a warm toned and milk chocolate was more neutral. But milk chocolate and semi-sweet were so similar. I think you could have had just one, I think you could have had just one light kind of, one mid-tone brown. I don't think it needed three in here. The white chocolate, I'm glad that they did that as the largest shadow, along with the champagne truffle, because those are shades that you're going to use quite a lot of. There were a couple shades that I really hated. The biggest one being the Candied Violet was just it's the only real pop of color in the entire palette, and it wasn't a good shadow. It just wasn't very good. And then some shadows really surprised me. I kind of figured out how to use Strawberry Bonbon, which I hadn't expected to. I loved Marzipan. They're good. They're good. And when I started, this was really difficult for me to do. It was really hard, and I had to give myself breaks and say, okay, so as soon as I hit pan on a shade, I'm going to give myself 2 days off. As soon as I finish a shade, I'll give myself 4 days off. And that was my motivation to kind of get through it. I'm finding this year that I don't have to do that. Like, honestly, all year with my Pan That palette for this year, I've had a really easy time grabbing the same palette over and over and over again. And I think that it just comes down to there's not a wide variety of looks that you can do in here. And on one hand, that's good because everything is neutral. It's very wearable, which makes it nice for a Pan That palette. Because like this year I have two, like I'm wearing them right now, I have two really bright colors. I've got this purple and this green that I'm working on that obviously are going to be much more challenging to get through, but it does keep it from getting stale. So it's one of those things where it's like having a wide variety is nice because you don't feel tied down, but which is what I have this year. And this last year felt a lot more like I wish I had more color. But on the other hand, like the colors are obviously harder to pan. So I don't know. Regardless, would I buy this again? I don't think that I would. Now, Too Faced is cruelty-free. They were completely cruelty-free when I bought this, and now they're cruelty-free with a parent company that tests. And I'm gonna go on a little rant about that. I honestly have never quite figured out how I feel about that. As of right now, almost everything in my collection, minus like a chapstick and 2 lip colors, are completely cruelty-free, no parent company testing. But I think that I've done that just because of like pressure from this. I think that if I didn't film, I wouldn't mind buying from parent companies. Anyways, that's like a whole separate thing, but I don't plan on repurchasing this. If I was going to repurchase a Too Faced palette again, I like their Naturalized palette a lot more than I like this one. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I wish that I had done that one for my Pan That palette because I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. It was really nice to be doing a palette that a lot of other people were doing this year, because the first year that I did it with a holiday palette that nobody else was doing with me. And this year I did it with something that a lot of other people were doing, and it was nice because I could watch other people's tutorials and see what they were doing, and also like get motivation and get ideas for how to reuse the shadows. There were a lot of shadows in here that were multi-use, so like the white chocolate I was able to use to set my concealer. Champagne truffle I was able to use as both a highlight and like a face highlight and like makeup highlight, and I did the same thing with marzipan where I used it as a face highlight. What else did I do? Cherry cordial, I used some on my lips. I think I did that with amaretto too. I don't remember. This is why you should film finales when you are actually finished. And I used, I think, both salted caramel and milk chocolate as bronzers and maybe as eyebrow shades. Like, there were a lot of multi-use shadows in here, and I think that when you're doing your first Pan That palette, having shadows that you can use in other places, like your brows or your face, like as a blush or a highlight or a bronzer, or even like some of those that I said that I used on my lips, I think is really, really helpful. And I think that another thing that I learned is it's okay to not finish. I'm okay that there's 4 shadows in here that I didn't quite get through because I feel like it was successful. I'm being interrupted by my kid. Hold on one sec. The other thing that I think doing a Pan That palette really taught me, like completely trying to finish a Pan That palette as opposed to just hitting pan, is just how little makeup I actually need. So like right now, I just filmed a makeup collection video. I don't know which one of them will be out first. If that one's out first, I'll link it in the iCard. If not, hit the bell and then you won't miss it. But, you know, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 palettes. And this one took me a year to finish. So that's like 11, or that's like 10 years worth of makeup, 10 years worth of eyeshadow in my collection. Now, of course, Some of those are like quads or whatever that I'm going to go through faster than something that has however many shades this has. I think it has like 20 or something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, 14. Felt like 20. 14 shadows, obviously, like I could go through something like this that only has 4 a lot faster, but you know, some of them have more than 14 colors in it. And the other thing is like a lot of them are dupes. You know, like there's just a lot of like repeats in palettes. So do you need more than one neutral palette? No, you don't. Like, finish what you have. You really, really don't. And I think that the other thing to consider is I tend to gravitate towards palettes because I just am like, I want to get the best deal. I want to get the most options, right? But maybe consider buying singles. You know, I'm a big palette girl. I don't like having individual little eyeshadows, but like if you do it in like a collective palette like this, I think that singles have some real appeal to them. But for example, just holding up this palette, look at all those shades that honestly will look on the eye almost exactly the same as some of these. And I've got other neutral palettes in here too. You know, I've got more than that. And I have way less than I used to have. You don't need as much as you think you need, basically. I've really enjoyed Pan That palette. I think I will continue to do it for the foreseeable future. I'm definitely enjoying it this year. I'm happy to be done with Chocolate Bar. This video is getting long though, so that is kind of my final thoughts on Pan That palette for the year of 2017. And hopefully I will do more frequent updates for the year of 2018 for the second half of the year on my Anastasia palette, because I filmed an intro for it and then it's June and just filmed my first update, which was like halfway through the year. This palette I know will be a lot easier for me to finish, and I'm excited about that. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this. I will talk to you eventually. Bye guys.